Hello, Sarah Sabin, executive and team coach here in the Leading in the Modern Way video interview series. And I am very excited to have with me here today, Geoff Alexander, who is president and CEO of WowBao. Geoff, welcome to the show. And could you briefly introduce yourself to my listeners?
Sure. Thank you for having me. As you said, my name is Geoff Alexander. I'm the president and CEO of WowBao, a quick serve, fast casual Asian concept. Started in 2003 by Lettuce Entertain You Enterprises, which is a large privately held restaurant group based in Chicago. I've been with Lettuce since 1993, so 30 years with them, and took over WowBao in 2009 and been running the concept since 2009. We operated in brick and mortar, airports, college campuses, sports stadiums, 700 virtual locations, music festivals, and in frozen and fresh grocery.
Okay, thank you for summarizing that. So you've been going since 2009, and I'd love to know more about some of the significant challenges that you faced at the beginning of the business and how you overcame some of those challenges.
Well, look, I think the biggest challenge that is in the room that everyone has to acknowledge is COVID. But since you're asking from the beginning days of me taking over the brand in 2009, the brand started in 2003 with 3 brick and mortar stores. And when I took it over in 2009, we still had 3 brick and mortar stores. The biggest challenge has been 2 things for it. The first is nobody knows what bao is. Bao's been around for thousands of years in China, but it's not American mainstream. And it definitely was not in 2009. And the second largest challenge was, as a privately held restaurant group, we only have so much capital. And today, at this moment, there's 72 partners in the company. In 2009, it might have been 60 or so, but everybody's fighting for a piece of the pie to grow. So how do you grow a business, grow a brand, create a name for yourself when you do not have access to capital? And that's really what launched our concept and made WowBao so successful, because we had to do a lot of, guerrilla marketing, things very cost effective, outside of the box. And by doing those kind of things, we became the first lettuce brand. And again, lettuce started in 1971. We became the first brand in the company to get an airport location. We became one of the first adopters in Chicago to have a food truck. We had self-ordering kiosks in 2010 and mobile ordering and desktop ordering in 2010, which a lot of people didn't have. We had bicycle delivery in the early days. So we just found a lot of ways to grow our product and our opportunity to get to consumers outside of traditional ways of doing it. And that was a big overcome that we were able to achieve.
That's really interesting. So the concept of guerrilla marketing is something that brings to mind a UK-based steak company called Flatiron. They have a chain of restaurants in London, and essentially you can never get in there because they don't take reservations and it's always really busy. But the way they started was as a food truck. And the reason they did that is because right at the beginning, in order to get an investor, they would have wanted a huge percentage of the company. And the founder just wasn't prepared to do that. So he used those guerrilla tactics to get the name and the brand out there, which obviously then made setting up the restaurant chain later down the line much easier.
Yeah, look, I think that, first of all, having a problem where you can't get into the restaurant is not a bad problem to have. I think we all wish we had that problem. But what happened was, in Chicago, you were not allowed to cook on trucks. There were no food trucks allowed in Chicago. And we had with the 3 locations, we had one location that really created a lot of the sauces and prepared the salads, and we would drive it to the other locations. So we had this van that literally sat in a parking garage for 23 hours a day. And since you could not cook on trucks, we had the idea to put a hot box into the van, and we would prepare the food in a restaurant, put the food into the hot boxes, grab a cooler to fill up with drinks and salads, and then we would drive to college campuses, hospitals, and so on and so forth, and sell out of the van as a way. And then we had this giant branded van that's driving around the streets of Chicago screaming WowBao. So it became a mobile billboard for us. It became a way for us to reach other consumers. And then from that, we were able to now do catering opportunities, because we could drive our food to large office events. And so we really found multi-use for this van really by accident, because it was just sitting there with not being utilized.
The word that comes to mind is scrappy. So
we are very scrappy. I thank you for knowing that word. That is our DNA. Our DNA is completely scrappy. We are a small, lean team. Back in the day, there were about, I would call us 4 or maybe even only 3 corporate employees. Even to this day, we require everyone in the home office to work at least 1 or 2 shifts per quarter in the restaurants, because you need to, if you're in the marketing team, you need to see how your menu design works for a consumer, right? If you're in customer service, you need to see how actually the consumer is being handled in the store, right? So we make everyone work in the restaurant so they can stay touched to the food, B, touched to the consumer, and see how the work that they do in the home office translates out into the field. And that's a very scrappy way of keeping attached to the community, number one, as well as, making sure that nobody's too big for their britches.
I love that, because essentially, even a leadership team that is on the front line regularly, they have much more of a basis to make decisions for the good of the company if they actually understand what the front line looks like, rather than being very far removed from it.
Yeah, it's very important. And I don't think a lot of other companies are doing as much that they could be doing to make sure that the frontline employee and the home office support team have that kind of connection. And by us being in the stores, you open those lines of communication. It makes it easier to change policies or to introduce new items, and to make sure that there's camaraderie amongst the team. We also do a large music festival every August in Chicago called Lollapalooza. It's 100,000 people a day over 4 days. And the entire home office team works 3 out of the 4 days. We bring up a number of the hourly employees from the stores, and it's just a way for everyone to keep that teamwork mentality, that we're all here for the good of the brand more than anything else.
Yes, the collective win.
100%. Yes. It is all about the brand. It is not about Geoff Alexander or this person or that person. Everything we do is to further the name of the brand, which goes back to the first question you asked about the biggest challenge we had in the early days. Nobody had ever heard of WowBao. Lollapalooza that I just mentioned, the first year we did it, everyone was like, what am I eating? What is this food? And the second year we did, everyone said, I'm so glad you're back. You were my favorite food the first from last year. There's a story of Richard Melman, the founder of Let Us Entertain You, who in 2003, the first year WowBao was open, supposedly, rumor is, he gave away 50,000 bao that year. We always came from a world that if you put the product in someone's hand, that is the best way to grow. It's not about radio, TV, magazine advertising. It's about giving your product to someone for them to enjoy and to embrace and want to try again. So we have always found ways, whether it's the food truck, Lollapalooza, giving away, being part of the community for different events. If you put our product into someone's hands, that's where you see the most encouraging signs of growth.
Well, 100%, because, if you're passionate, and this goes for whatever product or service you provide, where you're passionate about it, where the quality of your product or service is there, then all you need to do is to spread the word and, like, as you say, directly put it into the hands of the consumer. Yes,
which is not always easy to do. And that's where being scrappy really helps to do it. When we first got involved with grocery in 2015, I was at 1 or 2 grocery stores 1 or 2 nights a week, just sampling the food, handing it out to people. Try this, please buy the product. I mean, that is what the leader of an organization should be doing. And what I find a lot coming out of COVID is a lot of the restaurant industry, and I'm very passionate about this topic, and I'm passionate about the restaurant industry, is what pre-pandemic, when we were all very busy, we had great service, we were in the hospitality industry. Coming out of COVID, we're no longer in the hospitality industry, we're in the food business. But the difference is, pre-pandemic and in the early days of a restaurant, the owner and the manager were on the floor talking to every guest, giving hospitality. Now we're all shorthanded. We have different layers or different levels of people working for us. And those managers and owners either are not on the floor or are too busy filling in positions to provide and ensure that hospitality exists. That's why a lot of what we do is we try to, as the leadership team, we are constantly in the consumer's face, being part of the conversation and listening and helping and trying to grow what we've created.
And I'm going to draw attention to the use of the word listening rather than telling people what they should want. When you listen to people, it changes the dynamic, and especially if they are the actual person buying the product, because it's all about establishing what is market fit, what do people want, which you can only understand if you are actively listening.
Yeah, here's a great example of that. So we have 6 different flavors of our bao in grocery stores. And we created each one based on its flavor, gave it a different color. And it looks great because on the shelf, then you have this rainbow of colors going across, really giving great placement. The issue is I pick the colors. I know nothing about grocery. I don't know if the red color I picked, do people buy red products? I have no idea. So we put these out there and we have watched the feedback of what's selling versus what's not selling and listening. We can make the change to the color. But your point is so exact on point. We can sit in our lofty offices and our thrones of the world and make decisions. But if you don't listen to the feedback from the consumer about what they want from your brand, from your employees, from the object that you're selling, it's one-way directional. And that one-way message you're sending, it might not be the message you want to have be received. You have to listen. I mean, there's the old adage, right? God gave us all 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen more than speak. And I think that's the most important thing from a hospitality and a customer service aspect, is to hear what your client is saying to you and react. Now, look, you as the owner and founder of the brand know what you stand for, know where you're trying to get to. So I'm not telling you to go off road just because someone told you to be left, not right. But there's always a middle ground. It's not one or the other. It's finding that gray space to be in, so you can grow to the extent that you want to grow, or even then surpass the goals that you have.
Yeah, I love all of that. And it is my personal opinion, if all of us listened more, we would have a much more harmonious world.
And a quieter world.
Yeah, I mean, actually, if we were all listening, maybe no one would be speaking. The other end of the spectrum. So you've referred to your team and creating this sense of collaboration and bringing together the team around the collective win. So digging down more into how you see leadership, how do you personally define strong leadership, and how do you see it impacting the growth of your company?
So the number one word in our employee handbook, and the number one thing I stress with the team, is to care, right? So first of all, we have been in office every day, full days, since August of 2021. I personally never left the office. And it is extremely hard for us to find people who want to join our team because the world has gone hybrid or fully remote. But we have had exponential growth over the last 24 to 36 months. From April of 2020 through today, we've done over 700 locations across the US and Canada as virtual restaurants, where we sell our product to other restaurants for them to sell it out their back door on third-party delivery platforms. We've gone from 350 grocery stores across the Chicagoland area to almost 6,000 by the end of this year in just the last 17 months, if not maybe the last 14 months. And that is because of the collaborative work that we all have in the office, being able to have marketing next to sales, next to operations, next to culinary, everyone working to grow the brand together. And I think by setting that tone, that we are in a bullpen environment, right? There's no walls outside of my office and outside the conference rooms. Everybody's in a collective area, that we are together in this race to creating an iconic brand. And the fact that we are all in a collaborative environment, and my door is never closed except for this phone call, right? For your listeners. And I'm out there in the bullpen with the rest of the team. You have to know who your team members are. You have to give them the recognition they deserve. You have to praise them for the rewards that they're bringing to the company. I champion each of my people. You know, I go onto LinkedIn, I go into my board meetings, and I give the credit to those individuals who are doing great things. Now, the company would not exist without the hard work that each of those employees are doing. So bad leaders do not champion their employees. They take the credit for them. And then those employees leave on to go somewhere else. I come from a very strong belief that you have to care about the individual, the personal lives about each of your employees. And the more you give to your employees, the more they're going to give to your brand, your company, and to your consumer. And it's going to pay dividends. And that's why we've had the success we've had over the last 3 years.
Mm. And, you know, I'm glad that you've said you've had extraordinary growth. And then you've also said, well, actually, one of our fundamental values is care. And one of the messages that I am very passionate about disseminating is it's not either or. It's not like you must be entirely profit driven and therefore drive people into the ground. There is lots of data to suggest that happier employees are more engaged employees and therefore more productive and therefore perform higher. And then that translates into the tangible results for the company. And essentially, you know, care is not mutually exclusive from performance. Care doesn't mean you let bad behaviors go necessarily. But starting from that fundamental premise, it creates the loyalty and trust that you want to exist within the company.
You know, I wholeheartedly agree. And when I interview new people to come join the team, they always ask what their culture is like and what do I look for in employees. And what I want is I want our office. What I say to everyone is I want fun, high energetic people who want to be part of a team and plan to work hard. Mm-hmm. But I always start off with fun and high energy. You know, we go to a Cubs game once a year, right? The whole team goes, the home office team, we go out to a Cubs game, or we bring in lunches, or we bring in food at certain times. Or one of the things we just started is we started an education, motivation, inspiration series every other Friday. I bring in somebody who I've met through my network, some in the restaurant industry, some not in the restaurant industry, for a 30-minute Q&A. Where the whole team comes together either in Zoom or in person, and I bring in this special guest and we ask them random questions to get their thoughts on the industry, on customer service, on what's going on in the world, because it's so important that your team gets education and inspiration and motivation. You can't just sit at your desk all day and tell someone to go be creative, to go find new business. No one knows how to do that. At some point, the well will run dry. But if you create moments of inspiration, of ways to help further someone's education, of ways to keep them motivated about their job, they will find ways to become scrappier, to create new revenue streams, to create more profitability, to further your brand, and to feel empowered that they want to be part of your team. And all of that, and I hope you hear it as I'm speaking, creates passion. And that passion then is what drives success more than anything else. If you wake up in the morning and don't want to get out of bed, or you can't wait to get out of the office at the end of the day, or don't want to work through lunch, you're not passionate. I get up in the morning and I am energized to come in and say, what do I have to get done today? And what am I going to face? And I can't wait for that curveball that's going to come in at some point and to take on that opportunity. We have a saying in our organization, are you threatened or are you challenged? Right? When that curveball comes, it can threaten you. And if it threatens you, that creates fear, that creates instability, that creates an opportunity to not move forward. If you're challenged, you want to complete the challenge. You want to rise to the occasion and feel success. And we push everyone on the team to accept the challenge, but we don't expect anyone to accept the challenge on their own. And again, we're in this bullpen environment where everybody's together so that you have collaboration. You have somebody you can ask for help, and you have someone you can work together to feel that success and share in the win.
I love all of that. And just to summarize a few things, you're essentially creating the environment in which your team can thrive. because it's all very well to say, well, my team aren't performing, but then if you look at what you're doing to help support them to perform, that can often be lacking. So, you know, your education sessions, training is something that the younger generations coming up through work actually want. And yes, I can 100% hear the passion in your voice, and it's hard to fake that. And passion is contagious. So if you are energized, if your leadership team are energized, then it has that trickle down effect to the rest of the employees, to the culture of the company.
Yes, and you made one comment. You said how I created this environment for people to thrive. I think it's important to note, you can have an idea about how you want your business to run, or have an idea of what the culture should be like. But one person cannot create the environment or create the culture. You can breathe life into it. You can keep it on the path that you see fit for it. But culture and environment have outside forces. And those outside forces are everybody else who's in that ecosystem, right? So I'm not creating the environment for my employees and my teammates to thrive in. We collectively are creating an environment where we all embrace one another and create a safe space and encourage one another to succeed. Now, as the leader, it's my job to make sure that that exists, but there's no way one person can do that. And I'm so such an advocate for team. And in earlier days of my career, I probably was not so much. I'll be honest, I was probably much more of a solo artist who wanted the recognition and thought that was the way to grow, that the more I did and the more I got acknowledged for the work I was putting in, the more growth I would have. Now I've had growth and I've succeeded, and now I run a company. I probably would have grown faster if I had embraced this idea of teamwork and the idea that other people's success would be either attributed to me or I would have a share into it. And my success probably would have happened earlier in my career. That's hindsight. You never know, true or false to it. What I can say is, you know, if you were to ask me to go back in time and tell the younger me something, I would have said, let other people shine, champion them. And now if I had lost employees because of it, if people gotten poached or they grew faster than me, don't get caught up in jealousy of that. Stay your course. And what I think my proudest moment of a leader is I've had a number of employees who have left me over the years negatively. I don't like this about you, Geoff. I don't like that you did this. You worked me too hard, whatever it may be. And many of them, the majority of them, have reached out to me 12, 15, 18, 24 months post leaving me and have said, you know what? You were the best leader I ever had. You were hard on me, but I learned XYZ from you, which has gotten me to where I am. Now, it didn't feel good at the time when they told me, you know, why they were leaving and how angry they were. But the fact that they saw my passion not as a negative as they grew in their own leadership, and they saw it as a way to achieve goals, meant a lot to me. Today, I'm much more happier that people aren't leaving and saying, I don't like this or that about you. People are leaving because they've been groomed to take on more and they feel success. Actually, people aren't leaving. I don't want to give that impression. They're enjoying the team's success and we're all staying together, but attrition does happen.
Yeah. But I think, you know, it's interesting that sometimes in being a leader, we make people uncomfortable so that they can expand and grow. And it's interesting that the people that happened to with you, in retrospect, realized all the learnings they could take from it.
Yeah, I had one person who worked with me for a very long time and I was very fond of, and for whatever reason, left on a negative term. We don't need to get into why or whatever, but the pandemic then happened 2 years later. And the first call they put out for help was to me. And that message says more about what that person learned from me than the way the person left from me.
You know, interesting, Geoff, because I was actually going to ask you the question, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? But I feel like we've covered that. Earlier in life, realize it's about we, not me, to summarize it.
100%. That is, we should make t-shirts.
Yeah. Next time I see you, you will be wearing that t-shirt, Geoff. Geoff, I've really enjoyed this conversation today.
I thank you. I thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope that if anyone takes a takeaway of any kind from this, you know, that the old adage, teamwork makes the dream work. And I really believe that the success that WowBao has had is not only a team win, but it's only because we are in a collaborative environment, all in office, working together for the good of the company. And I'm so proud, not only of the team, but to be able to be the one leading the team and learning from them as much as hopefully they're learning from me.
And that's a great note to end on. Thank you, Geoff.
Thank you.
To my listeners, I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation as well. If you would like to be involved in the Leading in the Modern Way video interview series, please do reach out to me. Thanks. Bye for now.